There is more fallout from the scandal at Dalhousie University over those demeaning online messages aimed at women.
They marched on the campus, straight to the president's office. More than 200 people demanding the expulsion of the 13 male dental students.
They are a safety risk. I have a daughter as well, and I wouldn't feel safe being in a dentist chair.
Dal's handling of this all didn't sit well with the protesters.
It turned me from being a very proud alumni into not being a very proud alumni at all.
What is it going to take for action on this campus?
Oh, hold on, everyone. Somebody tweeted me a funny cat pic. Oh, look at that. I'm going to favorite that and retweet it. Are you kidding me? You know, here's a tip for maybe getting action on your campus. Try not checking Instagram in the middle of your protest speech. It's not like what are you doing? Is she Googling the answer to her fucking question in the middle of this? She's up there with a fucking megaphone. She's like, hold on, guys. I've got to find out, how do we expel the misogyny? Google's not giving me anything. Anybody? Should we start a Facebook page, put a poll up there, see what the most like? Anybody at all? No? Check Google again. No, well, maybe next time have a prepared speech. And it's crazy. I know. It's bizarre having a prepared speech, but it might help. It's a little tip from me. Now, for those of you not in the know, and I'm going to guess that's a fair majority of you unless you're Canadian, this happened up in Nova Scotia at Dalhousie University. It's a little incident surrounding their dental program, or a group of individuals in their dental program. I mean, just look at these protesters. They are pissed off. Something horrendous must have happened. These dentists, these dental students, must have done something unforgivable. I mean, just look at them. They are upset. In fact, I particularly like this sign. This one is, I think, my favorite. No one who thinks rape is funny should have access to sedatives. I want to make that a bumper sticker. That is the best protest sign. No one who thinks rape is funny should have access to sedatives. Nobody who makes a poop joke should be allowed near a toilet. You can tell just how pissed off a protest is by the amount of signs they have. Expel misogyny. And this is another one. Give us the names. They want the names. Well, the names of who? Again, this comes back to the dental students. This has been making the news in Canada since about December, and it's been going all the way up until today. It's been a 3 to 4 month process. So we should probably start at the beginning so you get an idea of what the fuck is going on at Dalhousie University and how crazy the reaction to what you're going to see is. To get into this, to really understand what's going on, I'm going to jump right to the meat and potatoes. I'm going to show you what these dental students said. Now, these students were all members of a Facebook group, the class of DDS 2015 gentlemen. And obviously, they must have been posting some pretty horrendous stuff because you can see the fervor, the firestorm surrounding these comments, these horribly, horribly terrible things that they've said. So let's take a look at a few of these. Now, they're censored. That's not my doing. That's the doing of every single news outlet that posted these. I can't find the Facebook group, it's not up anymore, and these are the only remnants really of what was posted. So I'm going to show you what I could gather. And I had to go and dig through multiple articles, but I've compiled what I think are the ones that people got the most upset at. I mean, after all, people are triggered. They're worried about going to the dentist. I know when I go to the dentist, my biggest fear when I'm getting a cavity filled is brutal rape. So first up, we have an image macro that was posted onto the group. Shows a man and a woman drunkenly leaving a party or a bar, I'm assuming, and it has the text overlaid, "Does this rag smell like chloroform to you?" with people below making jokes in reference to it. Horrible, I know. How could these monsters think they could get away with something like this? But it gets worse. It gets worse, so prepare yourself. Here we see a woman in a bikini with a skateboard and a beer, and it says, "Stress relief blank modified method. Bang until stress is relieved or unconscious," and then in parentheses it says girl. Now below it, you can see in the comment section, people start to run with that concept. The first comment is, "Well, I thought for blank it was get the girl unconscious first, then bang until stress is relieved," followed up by things like, "Can you tell me what this chloroform smells like?" or "Does this smell like nitrous oxide to you?" My God. This is rape culture, ladies and gentlemen. How these bastards thought they could get away with it, I'm glad that those protests are going on. Clearly, people who would post something like this need to be destroyed. But it gets worse. These are just two of the things. Let's look at some more. Let's show you what these rapists think they can get away with. Again, another image macro, and it says, "And then blank asked me to play hide the salami. I thought he was talking about the food before I said yes." And then there's a picture of a girl weeping on a bed. Or this one, a poll asking, who would you hate fuck? And there were 2 names listed, and all of them are blurred out, but I think we can all assume who the winner of this would be. Here we see even more patriarchy at work. In a posting by one of the members, it says, "Penis, the tool used to wean and convert lesbians and virgins into useful, productive members of society." But don't let this innocuous bullshit fool you. I mean, yeah, you may think, I've seen this all over the internet before. This is nothing new. I've seen this on Twitter. I've seen this on Tumblr. I've seen this on Instagram. I've seen this on Reddit. I've seen this on 4chan. I've seen this in every fucking community that's ever existed. People making dumb fucking jokes. No. It's misogyny, you sexist, cishet pig motherfucker. Don't say otherwise, or what happened to them is going to happen to you. But it wasn't just shitty image macros and polls these horrible misogynists put up. No, they also put things like this up. A few days ago, one of the girls in my class asked me why there are no girls in the gentleman's club. I said that the gentleman's club is not necessarily for men, but it's just for badasses. And if it so happens to be that none of the girls are badasses, then there you have it. But what I really thought of, but didn't say, was the following. 1. The gentlemen aren't a group of men. 2. They are people who do not cry to an instructor, and then the instructor does the prep. 3. They are a group of people who don't cry to the instructor, and then the instructor signs off their prep. 4. They are a group of people who don't make the instructor feel bad for them or their day, and then let the instructor do half of their prep. 5. The gentlemen are a group of people who only have instructors at their cubicles for 5 minutes, and not 45 minutes, and then complain that they were only seen once. Yeah, but for 45 fucking minutes. 6. They are a group of people who do not casually flirt with instructors and lure them into their cubicles for longer in-clinic talking with a sexy voice to their instructors. Damn honey traps. 6. The gentlemen are a group who cleaned house, there's something redacted there, because they had done all their work by themselves previously. 7. If that just so happens to be men, then so be it. 8. I am fairly certain blank will love this post. Well, goddamn. I haven't been this triggered in a long time, and if you're like me, right about now you want to take these horrible misogynists and line them up against the wall and shoot them in the head. Well, that or maybe start a petition to get them banned, and get that petition signed by, 50,000 fucking people. Like this particular one that was posted by Megan B. Expel the students who were members and or participated in the Facebook group called Class of DDS 2015 Gentlemen. And it's got some choice quotes in here. I want to share a few with you to let you know just how terrible it is in Canada right now, such as this. I believe that given the current environment of bullying and sexual violence plaguing our Canadian educational facilities, justice must be done, but it must also be seen to be done. I knew those fucking Canucks were up to something. All that maple syrup and Canadian leaf bullshit was all just a cover for the non-stop rape by dentists on university campuses. Thank you, Megan, for putting this petition up. I don't think we could have survived without it. I particularly like this line in it's the last one in the first paragraph. Not one person who believes that drugging of an individual as a way to have non-consensual sex is funny or a joke should ever have access to sedatives. Well, looks like we know where that talking point came from. Yes, the reaction to the postings on the Facebook are what started the Dalhousie shitstorm. And that storm has been fueled by the ire of different individuals and groups, and that's really what we're going to be looking at as we explore the Dalhousie issue, these horrible dental misogynists. Now, it's completely fucking ridiculous. It should be striking you as ridiculous right now. Now, the university has released 3 statements. We'll look at them over the course of the video. But essentially, up until this point, what has happened is they've been suspended. But that's not good enough. No, the SJW mentality that is rife on college campuses, on universities right now, demands that anything that happens, whether significant or insignificant, be turned into a major issue, and then be examined from every possible angle until everybody is so fucking miserable that they just don't want to go to college anymore. Now, we saw part of that in the protests themselves. People want their names. They want them expunged and expelled and dealt with. People are out for blood. Now, what's fueling that? I mean, 50,000 signatures, that's a lot of signatures, even for a media firestorm that this has been for the last 3 months. What dumb fucking group could possibly be helping to further this stupid shit? Oh, I see.
Hello, leaders of Dalhousie University. We are anonymous.
Anonymous, of course. Or, in this case, expel misogyny, as you can see from their cute little Twitter. Because apparently everything today has to be an operation with them. They're all certified fucking doctors. It would explain their hatred for dental students and the intense rivalry that's taking place right now. Obviously, this is some kind of a professional thing, like firemen and policemen. And of course, once that dental scandal made it into the news, here comes Anonymous to demand justice. And how did they do that? Well, they set up a Twitter account, and they released some videos on YouTube, and they did a couple of interviews with people like Vice and a few of the local papers. But the majority of the work was a list of demands, and those demands were communicated through pastebin accounts. Because why not? Let's put up a couple of pastebins and tell the university what we want to have happen. And so let's take a look at Anonymous and their demands and see how reasonable it is. Because I'm sure this isn't fucking crazy. I'm sure it's completely reasonable and completely sane. Now, given the length of a few of these pastebins, I've had to cut and paste a few of it, but I've included the URL inside the actual image cap, and I'll put it in the link in the description. You can go read it yourself. But we're going to start with the first one that was released December 23rd, 2014. Message to the leaders of Dalhousie University. The case is clear. Endemic sexism is alive and well at Dalhousie University, and nothing short of outside intervention will spur you to act. Anonymous therefore makes the following demands. The Dalhousie Senate Discipline Committee will immediately begin steps to convene a hearing panel in regards to each member of the DDS 2015 Gentlemen Club. Steps to expel all active members and ringleaders of the DDS 2015 Gentlemen Club will begin immediately, including but not limited to the group creator, group administrator, anyone who participated in the hatefuck poll, anyone who encouraged corrective sexual assault for LGBTQ persons, anyone who encouraged the use of substance to facilitate sexual assault. We want to know why this case was ignored until made public. Dalhousie University will immediately begin a thorough, inclusive, independent, and transparent investigation into the institutional practices of Dalhousie University as it pertains to human rights, misogyny, rape culture, and gender justice. In concert with its existing and notably underfunded gender justice studies at South House, Dalhousie University will immediately begin to work on creating a new, community-driven, inclusive, and ongoing plan to address systemic sexism on campus and beyond. Active Gentlemen Club members working at the Dalhousie Dentistry School Clinic will be forbidden from returning to practice there with mandatory gender justice training for all clinicians. Dalhousie University will immediately begin public consultation with its students, Gender Justice Center, and staff in order to hear any additional requests and ideas they may have. A public promise from President Florazine that the image and reputation of Dalhousie University will never be placed above the well-being of its students. The clock starts now. If you have not demonstrated compliance by midday Monday, January 5th, the following actions will be taken in the interest of public safety. The names of all 13 members of the Gentlemen's Club will be released. The ringleaders and most active participants of the Gentlemen's Club will be identified. To ensure future victims know where to safely engage, the names of staff members who failed to act on this case were lauded by the gentlemen, and the dentistry professors who displayed the bikini video to the class will all be identified. Well, okay then, this seems reasonable. They just want to forbid them from ever going to school again, to get all of their names, and then to build a new gender study facility, and then institute mandatory gender justice training. Perfectly fucking reasonable. Now, you remember that January 5th deadline they set, because that's when the second pastebin went up. And it's a statement from Anonymous regarding DDS 2015 Gentlemen. To the Dalhousie Communications team, we will not make this easy for you. We will embrace your tactical mindset. You will only get ahead of this story if the establishment takes concrete steps to address it. Here are the rules of the game. Apparently this is a game, so let's listen to the rules that Anonymous has laid out. Anonymous will begin releasing its information at undisclosed time. According to a schedule, you can fast forward, slow, or pause in accordance with your moves. Game slow achieved. President Florazine makes a public promise never to put the image of Dalhousie above the safety of its students. A Dalhousie Senate disciplinary hearing is convened. Game paused achieved. Dalhousie University immediately extends the suspension of the 13 members of the DDS Gentlemen's Club to include classes, university events, any activities at its clubs or societies. Dalhousie University takes steps to expel the 13 members of the DDS 2015 Gentlemen's Club. Game fast forward caused. Ending, revoking, or overturning any current disciplinary action being taken against the gentleman. Any perceived threats, provocation, or attempt to identify anyone associated with Operation Expel Misogyny. Now that last one's got just a tiny little morsel of irony in it, coming from a group of people that are demanding to know who these students are, and at the same time screaming, "Don't you dare try to figure out who we are, or you're going to regret it." Now, the final pastebin that was put up was actually an email, or a copy of an email, and it was put up on January 14th of 2015. You might be thinking that your lives and careers are ruined, when nothing could be further from the truth. This is an opportunity for you to grow, learn, develop a valuable sense of empathy, and decide who you want to define yourself as. Remember that everyone loves a redemption story, but you cannot redeem yourselves while remaining silent or spiteful. You've hurt many people, and it's time to act. It's time for you to own your behavior. It's time to improve yourselves as people. Your classmates' lives have been disrupted, and many will face increased scrutiny when attempting to gain a license. Most importantly, you have seriously hurt them. The question is, what do you have to say for yourselves, and how will you behave now that the truth is coming out? Will you stand up and work to fix this while the opportunity still exists? Or will you succumb to your own current low moral integrity and continue to evade, defend, and deny? You need to prepare yourselves, because one way or another, the world is going to learn who you are. Consider this a chance to decide if that will be on your own terms or ours. The choice is yours. We are anonymous. We are legion. The corrupt fear us. The heroic join us. I'm sorry, I must have read the wrong pastebin. I thought this was anonymous, not a group of LARPers. The heroic join us. Kind of all went downhill after Chinology, didn't it, guys? But I'm not one to talk. I've been a part of some pretty gay shit myself. So who am I to say things? Who am I to say things? Now, like Anonymous said, they just want to get the information out there and give these gentlemen a chance to redeem themselves. They're not being vindictive at all. But then you read quotes like this. It's important to release the names because it certainly seems very clear that Dalhousie is not going to expel them, he explained. I think the best case scenario at this point, in my personal opinion, is we might see 1 or 2 expelled, and I don't think that's acceptable. I think that people have a right to Google their dentist and find out whether they're skilled, whether they're safe. I would hate to see anyone take personal retribution against these guys. I think that would be as morally abhorrent as what they've done. But I do think that the general public has a right to know if these guys are going to wind up as licensed practicing dentists. And so you had the protest march, and you had the petition with 50,000 signatures, and you had Anonymous involved making all sorts of demands. But what did Dalhousie University itself do? Well, it suspended the students. It suspended them but didn't release their names. It claimed that there was a risk, that they thought that they might self-harm or be hurt if their names were put out in the public. They also included them in something called restorative justice, which is this idea where you make them sit down with people that are offended by what they did, and the people who are offended by what they did get to choose what their punishment is. Now, the dental students themselves released an apology. Not that it was accepted, as certain professors decided to kick up some shit about that as well and say that that's just not good enough, that they still need to be expelled, that apologizing is never good enough. This should all sound very familiar to you. It should seem like a retread of something that you might have heard before. You never apologize to a social justice warrior. They never accept it. It's never good enough, no matter what you do. Here we see Anonymous saying, oh, redeem yourselves. Here we see people saying we want their names so they can redeem themselves. And when they offer up the apology, not good enough. When they take part of restorative justice, not good enough. No, they want them to be given a scarlet letter and forever branded for daring to make stupid, shitty jokes on Facebook. I want to reiterate, we are talking about people who made jokes on Facebook. Now, again, because we're at a university, God forbid, it just dies there. No, we've got to rehash it and talk about it some more. And boy, did the university ever pull out the stops on this. They got the student union involved, they got South House involved, and they got professors and academics involved for a forum on misogyny. I mean, what better way to deal with the issue of this dental scandal than to have all these experts, to have this compendium of academic minds all under one roof to deal with the hard issues. They're versed in racism and sexism and classism and homophobia and transphobia. They understand the importance of intersectionality. So clearly, these people know what they're talking about. And when they're given a question that's in their area of expertise, they're all going to be fighting one another to answer it first because they're going to be so eager to share their knowledge.
So the first question, what's the relationship between misogyny, racism, socioeconomic or class discrimination, and discrimination against transgendered people? What do these relationships demand from those of us who wish to see positive change? Any of you wish to take it? No, none of our panelists are. I can go to another one. I'll let you think of it. Okay.
Or the opposite might be true, and they could all be complete fucking morons. Who knew? Who knew? But let's introduce ourselves to some of the speakers because they've played a part in what's going on with the dental students and the reaction to it. And I think it's important you hear their opinions on things, because it really helps to bring into focus what the fuck is going on at Dalhousie University. So first up, let's hear from Jacqueline Warwick. because if there's one thing I like to do, it's have music and gender studies together.
Go ahead.
Great. I believe I have a dispensation to speak for a couple of extra minutes just so I can contextualize the video I showed you before we officially began. And I want to stay at the outset, make it very clear that I am not trying to single out this genre of music as creating misogyny. Please let me see some nodding heads so you understand that is not what I'm trying to do. I do, however, think that this particular song and the accompanying video employ misogynist strategies in a specific way that is pertinent to the conversations I've been having around campus for the last month. And so I do think it's relevant to our discussion today. Okay, so Plain Skills released this song, Literally I Can't, featuring Lil Jon, Inertia McFly, and Red Foo last November.
It seems I forgot to mention, they showed a music video at the start of this conference, and well, you know what? I'm going to let her explain.
The song features, and the video feature, a group of young women who are depicted as spoilt, whiny, uptight, annoying, going to a frat party, peopled strangely by men in their late 30s and early 40s, and sort of representing this idea that because these women won't obey, won't comply with commands, they are treated with contempt and really quite aggressive hostility. And I feel like that is contributing, connecting to the kind of strategies that we see used to create a climate of hostility and contempt and resentment towards women in certain areas of the university and generally across university culture.
Well, thank God. I'm glad she has the professional acumen to separate her two fields of study, that's gender and music, and not make a subjective value judgment based on letting the two cross over one another.
Now, as a trained musicologist, I feel qualified to tell you that this is just not a very good song.
Oh my God! Shut the fuck up!
Or fuck it, maybe she will. I mean, who am I to say? She's the expert after all. She is the trained musicologist. I mean, just look at this. She examines music, gender, and anger. Here's a quote. The intro course is many students' first forum for talking about their experiences as gendered beings. It was so exciting to be a part of that. One young man talked about being discouraged from playing with dolls. Don't we want boys to grow up to be nurturing? I mean, I know, when I go to a music class at college, the thing I want to talk about most is being a gendered being and playing with dolls. Because that's not a complete waste of my fucking time and money. But her students are in for a treat because she writes books as well, like Girl Groups, Girl Culture, Popular Music and Identity in the 1960s. And for the low, low price of $120 fucking dollars, it can be yours. How much you want to bet that Jacqueline's pawning that piece of shit off every dumb fucking student that takes her course? Of course, the inability to tell what a good song is or have a good fucking time wasn't the only thing to come out of the Forum on Misogyny. No, Judy Haven, another panelist that was there, another academic, made headlines as well with one of her suggestions. But I'm going to let her tell you herself because sometimes you have to hear fucking crazy to believe it.
First, I'd just like to congratulate the Dal Student Union and particularly the executive members that have been pushing this agenda forward. And I'd like to thank the Student Union for hosting this event here in this really good hall so that hundreds of us can participate. I want to know what we can do. I'm suggesting here in the next 4 points a method to change this culture. I want to change the channel from looking at the ethics of what the males did and for what the dental students were all up to. We could maybe talk more about these, but here are some solutions or possible solutions. On media, on media, television interviews, on platforms and political meetings, at any presentations, if there's no woman speaker, then the event does not take place. The interview is foregone, the political meeting is cancelled. One cannot get around the rule by using a woman as an MC. That's merely window dressing. Second, any sports team, group of students, or social club, faculty, where one or more of the members is sexually assaulted, verbally assaulted, sent out tweets, anything misogynist at all, these people get banned from the university and from acting at the university for 6 months. Any person in public office, if found to have engaged in harassment, assault, or other forms of misogyny, such as the 2 Liberal MPs who their allegations are unproved yet, they must write a letter, an open letter, to apologize to the women or women that they targeted. Also, women get to speak first. In classroom discussions, in question periods, and at public events, men should not be allowed to monopolize these forums. I think that I'm doing this right now in my classrooms, in the management department. Women get to speak first. I think that that is a primary issue that we actually have to look at, how we do question and answers, and we can start today. Thank you.
Well, hey, there's a non-crazy fucking solution. Let's make sure that if no women are involved, no events take place. And if women are there, they always get to speak first. I remember when this was called the progressive stack, and it worked out really great for Occupy Wall Street. I see it doing gangbusters in college. Judy's not fucking nuts at all. And that's not a completely dumb idea that didn't deserve any applause. But I forgot, because we live in Clapistan, you need to fucking applaud anything that happens. Now, one might wonder what kind of a professor Judy is. I mean, we could look at Rate My Professor. Let's take a look at a few of the more recent postings there. Well, that's not good. These two look poor to me. Dr. Haven obviously knows her stuff, but her personality gets in the way of her being a successful professor. She often seems confused about what she's saying. She doesn't explain anything clearly. She's extremely opinionated and judgmental, and more than a little crazy. Good luck and don't miss a single class, or you won't get half a clue. Well, I don't know what they're talking about. She doesn't seem crazy, opinionated, or judgmental to me at all. Let's look at another one. Absolutely the worst professor I've had. She has her moments, but not only can she not teach, she also brings her overly opinionated and snarky comments into her lectures, marks, and everyday chatter. I cannot bear this woman. No redeeming qualities. Do not take. Well, I know what you're thinking. This can't be fair. I mean, these two reviews, they're from March 5th, 2015 and January 20th, 2015. So it's very possible they're being influenced by the dental scandal. Maybe people are just taking shots at her because of her opinions, and she's a strong, independent woman, and they're just misogynist shitheads, and who knows. So we should go back in time. Let's look at some older, much older reviews to see what it was like back then, before this took place. How about more than a decade ago? Here's one from November 19th, 2004. She is frickin' crazy. She wears the weirdest things and makes those two people do all the lectures. I hear her husband was better at teaching the course. My TA is awesome. She's really cool and helps to clarify the stuff Judy Haven screws up. Go Sharon. Here's another review from November 15th, 2004. Terrible, crazy. Well, I don't know. Unless misogynists invented time machines, I'm gonna have to go with the fact that maybe she's a really shitty professor who has really dumb ideas. But what better place to share them than the forum on misogyny? Because God knows she fits in with everybody. Like this person.
Hey everyone, I really can't see past these lights, so I'm going to pretend like I'm looking at you, but... So yeah, I just want to thank you all for coming here and engaging with this issue. You're here because you know this is a big deal, and I don't want to say anything that's patronizing or that you've heard before. I think most things have already been said on this issue, and it's really frustrating that we have to be here. So my name is Jude. I work at the South House Sexual and Gender Resource Center. We serve all students of Dalhousie, Kings, and any community member who needs our services. I'm here to say that there is no way of eradicating misogyny from an institution that refuses to acknowledge the oppression, intersecting identities, and rights of its students. It's like that simple.
Have you ever wanted to take an ice pick and just jam it in your fucking ear? God, at the very least, she's not throwing in a bunch of buzzwords, because that would be just...
And that the issue of misogyny in our campus must be framed within a trauma-informed, feminist, survivor-centered, collaborative approach that doesn't rely on Dalhousie's mandate alone.
Okay, I have no idea what the fuck that was. That was a lot of words strung together. I heard a lot of buzzwords in there, but, you know, God, that's the problem with being a shitlord. It's really hard to educate yourself. Now, Jude Ashburn is from South House. That was one of the groups that pulled together this forum on misogyny. And just who is South House, if we were to look into that? What do they do exactly? How are they related to the university? Well, judging from their Twitter account, they obviously run a finger painting session for kindergartners, because that must be where they got their fucking art from. But the little blurb tells me otherwise. It says, South House Sexual and Gender Resource Center is Halifax's only full-time gender justice center. Well, I wonder, do they have a website we could go look at? Why, yes they do! About South House. The South House, Soho, is Halifax's only full-time gender justice center. We are a volunteer-driven, student-funded, gender-inclusive safe space for all members of our community. We are a trans and queer-positive space and are proud to offer a wheelchair-accessible space. we offer a resource center, library, and free meeting space for women positive and anti-oppression organization and gathering. Now, this is a group that Jude Ashburn is a part of. In fact, she's their outreach coordinator. So just who is she? Well, she's their outreach coordinator and also an anti-Zionist. Oy vey. Now, Jude Ashburn has been working at the South House since January 2013. Originally from Montreal, Jude studied gender studies and Aboriginal justice studies at the University of Saskatchewan and Saskatoon. While studying gender and queer theory, Jude enjoyed working at the Turning the Tide Radical Bookstore and being a supportive worker for folks who were navigating the medical industrial complex and mental health service delivery system. As the outreach coordinator, Jude's responsibilities include maintaining a social networking presence for the center, interacting with the media, planning and coordinating this year's events and campaigns, facilitating workshops on issues pertaining to sexual, gender, and reproductive justice, and building solidarity between the Soho and other community organizations. They're the one to get in touch with for new projects. Outside of the center, Jude can be found reading books and zines, supporting the local music scene, and hanging out with their dog. Well, clearly the person who's working at this gender justice center must be a all-inclusive sort of person. I mean, they must want to get everybody's perspective and be open-minded and open-hearted and invite everybody to come talk about the issues. And let's go look at Jude's Twitter account, because she is the social outreach person for this organization. Now, Jude describes herself on her Twitter as a facilitator of anti-oppression workshops and co-coordinator of the South House, lover of radical education and media, working to decolonize my mind and my resistance. So let's take a look at what this open-minded person has to say. We're overdosing on the amount of mansplaining this week. It's the fucking age of menlightenment over here. Hashtag infinite eye roll. Just walk past the dude who was manspreading on the one patch of ice-free sidewalk. Jesus fucking Christ, guy, your entitlement almost made me slip to my death. Percentage of people who care about white cishet dudes' opinions on feminism, 0%. White cis straight dudes need to mind their damn privilege before proposing to add critique to a feminist discussion, though. Not your place. And as you can see, Jude was also very active with the Dalhousie dental scandal. I couldn't possibly be more ashamed of Dalhousie University. Hashtag Dalhousie hates women. Hashtag rape culture. Hashtag violence. Hashtag apologism. Well, this seems like the sort of person I want to be the outreach coordinator for an all-inclusive center. Obviously, this center doesn't hate straight white men. They're more than welcome to come there and shut the fuck up and not manspread or mansplain or menlighten anybody. In fact, I think they have a game they play there where they add men as a prefix to any word that you could think of. Well, it seems like a very good decision to have included them inside the debate about misogyny. They don't seem like they have their own political agenda to pursue. And I'm glad they're student funded and connected to the university. This is the kind of attitude and image and presentation that Dalhousie should be known for. Now, that was the South House representative. But what about the student union? They also took part in the Forum for Misogyny. They helped to organize it and get it together and get the panelists together and all of that. So what's their attitude? Are they as open-minded as well? On January 15th, they got together and had a student union meeting. And they came to the conclusion that Dalhousie needs mandatory equity courses for all students. So no matter what your major is, no matter what you're there to study, whether it be mathematics or janitorial services, you need to have a equity class talking about all sorts of issues. But I think the most pertinent piece of information from this entire article is the following. Following the DSU's to confirm motions related to the Faculty of Dentistry, they then held a debate on whether they should add misandry, the disliked or contempt for or ingrained prejudice against men, to the second clause of the union statement regarding the dentistry Facebook group. The original motion said, the Dalhousie Student Union reaffirmed the support for a safer campus free from discrimination and harassment, including sexism, misogyny, homophobia, and sexualized violence. Skip Tunis thought the drawn-out argument on misandry was absurd. That was very inappropriate discussion, she said. That's not to say that misandry doesn't exist. We know it's a real thing, but we also know men are not one of the groups of people that are systematically oppressed. The thing that got me was, even if you disagree with it, the spirit of the motion is we're dealing with misogyny. It feels a bit shitty to turn and be like, what about them? What about them? The final result was to add transphobia, race, and class to the statement, and not add misandry. And was this motion carried? Yes, it was. The student union went along with it. Why add that to the list? Let's add other shit instead. I mean, it's not like it's sexist or anything to exclude men from being protected against persecution. That's what this is all about, right? But as we can see from the South House group, I guess this attitude maybe is a little deeply ingrained. I'm starting to get the feeling that maybe these panelists and these groups that got together to organize this forum on misogyny might, dare I say, hate men? Could that be a possibility? But if there's anything these people do well, it's hold absurd conversations about ridiculous shit, such as defining racism and sexism, understanding forms of oppression. Students, faculty discuss ways to make university campus safer. This is from March 19th. So just to sum up, the Forum on Misogyny and the Student Union and the South House comments, those are all from January. We're in March now, and they're still fucking talking about it. And what exactly was discussed at this new forum, this new meeting between faculty and students? Well, again, the pertinent part, and I think you're going to enjoy this. A need for designated safe spaces and gender-neutral facilities. Joan mentions that in Ontrad, every building that is a part of university campus has to be designated safe space for trans students to comfortably and confidently be themselves. Without these spaces at Dalhousie, trans and otherwise non-gender conforming individuals are hyper-vulnerable to discrimination, and on top of this, they are uncomfortable in the institutional spaces they are supposed to feel accepted in and be considered an equal part of. Recently, complaints have been filed with the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission against staff on Dalhousie campus who allegedly discriminated against a trans woman who was a DAL student at the time. One example of the complaint filed by the student has to do with the staff refusing to refer to her using her preferred pronouns, thereby refusing to acknowledge her self-identified gender. Well, it just seems like Dalhousie has problem after problem. Now I see why they added transphobia to that list on the union referendum and not misandry. But I'm curious, what was that complaint again about preferred pronouns? That sounds like a terribly triggering issue that Dalhousie has to deal with, right behind dental rape. Well, first off, you might be struck by the fact that this is from 2013, the Dalhousie's trans student claims discrimination from cafeteria staff. They said it was a recent event, but this is 2 years ago. Jessica Dempsey is registering a human rights complaint against Armark because she ran out of options. So whatever came of that? I mean, she filed this human rights complaint, so something must have happened. Well, Dempsey's grievance was sent to the school's Human Rights Equity and Harassment Prevention Office, and Armark's frontline staff received sensitivity training on issues relating to gender identity and gender expression. And this is probably my favorite line in the entire fucking article. "It's not my responsibility to educate everybody anymore," she says. That's right, shitlord. Educate yourself. And so here we are, months later, months and months later, with all these different forums on misogyny, with all these different gatherings, with all these new policies put in place, with protest march on the campus and media coverage all over the, province in Canada, maybe all over Canada itself. I don't know how far-reaching it was. And what is it a result of? At the end of the day, what did they do? What did these dental students do? They made some dumb fucking jokes on Facebook. They posted image macros on Facebook. And because of that, we've had a media circus. Everybody's talking about needing new affirmations and new policies and new laws and codifying things so that we can protect and have safe spaces for everybody who's marginalized. And you have all these voices saying what Dalhousie needs to do because a couple of people made some dumb fucking jokes on the internet. Now, the dental students themselves probably were blown away by the reaction to this. In fact, you can even see it. You can see them commenting about it. This particular post was actually up on their group before it got shut down. And I love this. I love this excerpt because it really, it encapsulates how absurd this all is. Boys, what are they going to do, honestly? Kick out every guy of the fourth year? How wrong. Dude, if you had any idea where this was going, I feel so bad for your ass. Because that is exactly what they did. They suspended fucking everybody. But this is the mentality we have on campuses now. Everybody is offended by everything. And when somebody gets offended, everybody and every institution and every organization needs to stop what they're doing and give somebody a hug. And usually the form of that hug is having ridiculous forums on misogyny and instituting policies about safe spaces so trans people can take a piss without feeling ostracized for some reason. You have organizations like South House that are headed up by people who obviously hate straight white people. You can see those tweets. I'm not making them up. You can go look at the Twitter account yourself. You can see how the student union voted. They didn't give a shit about misandry. They added transphobia, racism, and classism instead. This is a SJW mentality to a T. You can't be racist against white people. You can't be sexist against men. You can't discriminate against straight people. Those things don't exist. We don't need policies for them. But we need policies for everything else. Because I got offended somebody made a dumb joke on Facebook. So let's ruin these students' lives. Let's demand their names. Let's make sure they can never go back to college or have a career. And let's absolutely destroy them. It's bully tactics against the university and against the students who disagree with this mob mentality that has gone just off kilter. This is insane. And it will not end. Because once they have an issue, once they can capitalize on something, it will continue and not stop. And if you think I'm making that up, take a look at the newest fucking scandal that popped up. Dalhousie deals with fresh scandal. Student acted on explicit image, disciplinary action taken, but no charges laid. So I'm going to sum this up real quick because, well, this video has gone on for quite some time. But the newest scandal, the freshest one in the news, you can see March 27th, so just yesterday, revolves around an Instagram account, from what I understand, Del Jungle or something to that effect. And on this account, there was a picture of a girl giving a guy a blowjob, and the picture was taken by another student who was doing a selfie portrait of themselves smiling while they were in the background and she was sucking dick. And this has led to a new scandal, where people are demanding that all these students be expelled, and that anybody associated with the group, essentially what you saw with the dental scandal is happening with the Instagram scandal. So first Facebook, now Instagram. God help any Dalhousie student that has a fucking Twitter account. Your days are numbered. If you got a YouTube, you might as well just pack your bags and fucking run for America. Now, the most absurd point of this entire news scandal is that people are trying to say these students are guilty of distribution or possession of child pornography because somebody is claiming that the girl in the picture is 17. The cops, on the other hand, have said no charges will be pressed, that is not the case. How this will pan out in the future, I have no idea. I'm going to guess that this is taking place at a university. She's probably 18 or older, but who knows? I don't. But what you can see happening here is a hysteria taking over Dalhousie. You have an absurd event. Dental students making stupid postings on Facebook that has led to a circus where everybody has to get their fucking opinion in about how misogynistic and terrible these people are, and how Dalhousie, the university itself, is guilty of systemic oppression, and everybody's suffering because of it. We need to reform everything, and we need sensitivity training, and we need to ban anybody that says anything wrong, and kick them off campus, and only let women talk, and talk about how terrible men are. This is the university atmosphere as it exists today. Speech is no longer free. You cannot say what you want to say, because you will offend somebody, and when you do, your ass is out the door. Welcome to the new educational system. Welcome to Dalhousie.